This is the Cubs POSTCAST, your instant game reaction for the Chicago Cubs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into the Locked On Cubs postcast here on the Locked On Cubs YouTube channel. My name is Joe George, here with you after every single Cubs game. You can find me on all social media platforms at Joe George Radio. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. All right, the Cubs win 9-1. Breath of fresh air. That feels nice to say. To hear the Cubs score a bunch of runs and win a game. Look, it doesn't erase, obviously, what's been happening recently. But again, it was just refreshing, honestly, to see the Cubs go out there in multiple innings with guys in scoring position, coming off a game in which you're 0 for 9 with runners in scoring position, going out there and getting runs in and doing it in multiple ways, stealing bags, moving guys from station to station, having your power contribute. They finally did like everything we've all kind of been asking the Cubs to do, specifically with moving guys from first to second base and being aggressive on the base pass. Like, they did the little things in this game. But we'll start today's show off before we go into all of the runs the Cubs scored today with our Locked On Players of the Game.
This is the Locked On Player of the Game.
All right, we'll start with Michael Busch here, our first Locked On Player of the Game. There's going to be two of them for today's game for the Cubs. Michael Busch starts this game off with a leadoff double. He's obviously been one of the guys who's been struggling mightily since the All-Star break. Feels like he has started to put together some better at-bats as of late. That strikeout yesterday was not great, but the leadoff double and then the 3-run homer that he had really is hopefully what can keep that thing rolling for him, because, again, you need Tucker, Busch, Suzuki, PCA to really get this thing going. So Busch, very positive today, contributing to the Cubs in a major way. And then Matt Shaw will give the other one to. The RBI triple to score Dansby Swanson from first base. We saw his speed there. We saw the pull power in this game as well when he hit his home run to make it 9-0. So both Matt Shaw and Michael Busch, very positive things from this game. Let's talk about what else we saw in this one. Let's follow up the Michael Busch at bat with Kyle Tucker. So Kyle Tucker, in the last two games, we have seen him put the barrel on the ball at a much better rate than we have of recent stretch. He is hitting the ball much harder. And while he, yes, goes 1 for 4 with a walk in this game, it's not, the perfect, Kyle Tucker outing like it would be for Michael Busch, you would call it in this one. But Tucker is showing, I think, some signs of life, which is he desperately has needed as well. So Busch and Tucker showing signs of life, very good. Seiya Suzuki, solid day at the plate for the most part. Really only PCA, the guy who has been struggling, that didn't get it together in this game. He's throwing his helmet a lot. I see a lot of people saying that here in the chat. Yeah, he's frustrated. Pico Armstrong clearly wears his emotion very clearly in front of the world to see. I think back to an interview I saw Craig Counsell doing on The Score. Matt Spiegel was kind of pushing back against it, and Craig Counsell defended him. I will say, I do think for PCA, I think he needs to take a deep breath a little bit. I get his frustration, but man, he's frustrated up there. And I think we're seeing it, really coming through in his plate appearances, not just when he's striking out or popping out, but him and Ian Happ. Ian Happ is more verbal, but you're hearing it on the broadcast. I can't even repeat what Ian Happ is saying. But overall, this was the fun one. And again, I said it yesterday, the Cubs have been boring. Like, it's not just they haven't been good. They've been bad. They've been boring pretty consistently. So it's nice to see them go out there, score 9 runs in this game. And again, we cross our fingers and hope that this is something that can bring the Cubs around. So Kyle Tucker brought in Michael Busch with that single to make it 1-0. Carson Kelly, he gets a single. And Wilson Contreras, I know he's not a first baseman, really, but embarrassing play. The ball rolls underneath his glove. Kyle Tucker and Carson Kelly both super aggressive on the play, fully aware of what's unfolding in front of them. Kyle Tucker takes home, so it's 2-0 there in the first inning. Then the top of the second, Dansby Swanson gets the infield single, gets a stolen base, advances to third, And then Matt Shaw gets the walk. So it's 1st and 3rd with 1 out before Michael Busch came up for that 3-run home run. Seiya Suzuki got his double here in the 2nd inning. And then Carson Kelly, again, RBI single to make it 6-0 Cubs. The Cubs got their next run with the Dansby Swanson single and Matt Shaw triple to make it 7-0. And then we saw Ian Happ come through as well in this one. 1st and 2nd, 2 outs. Happ gets an RBI single that came after a Kyle Tucker walk and a Carson Kelly single. Carson Kelly, didn't mention him in the Locked On Player of the Game because honestly didn't have the explosion in his bat like we saw from Busch and Shaw, but 3 key hits there as well today. So I think that when you talk about, just like the lineup construction the last 2 days, I think it was strange with Happ having him bat 4th, but he's put together 2 okay games. Like maybe cross our fingers again. Like maybe this can be something that breaks the Cubs out of it. And that's all that really matters. Like I see, here in the chat, a lot of talk about the Brewers. Right now, all the Cubs and Cubs fans should be focused on is the Cubs, because the Brewers are on a unreal heater right now. They're the best record in baseball. They've been dominating the league. If they were like a 162 pace, they'd be the best baseball team in, basically of all time. But they're rolling right now. All the Cubs can do, and all Cubs fans honestly need to do right now, is focus on the Cubs, because the Brewers are 5 games in front of you, and they keep pulling off these miraculous wins. But for today, we hope that this can roll over in tomorrow, get the series win, as Jaden says here in the chat. Yeah, the Cubs need a series win tomorrow. It would be deflating. I think we used that word last week, but it would be a deflating loss tomorrow if the Cubs on Sunday Night Baseball cannot get the win over the Cardinals to take this series 2 out of 3 games. All right, we'll take our break here. When we get back, we'll talk more about what we saw from this team today, a little bit more on Matt Shaw, and as well Colin Ray's performance today for the Cubs, because while the lineup scored a bunch of runs, Colin Ray was very good in this game. That's all coming up next year on the Locked On Cubs postcast on the Locked On Cubs YouTube channel. Have you ever decided at the last minute to head to a ball game with friends or family? Maybe it's game day and you suddenly realize you want to be in the stands. That's exactly where Gametime comes in. It's the easiest way to grab last-minute tickets without the stress. With the money you save on tickets, you can splurge on food, drinks, merch, or even invite a bigger group to come with you. Gametime makes it possible. Gametime makes buying tickets fast and simple. Prices on the app actually drop the closer you get to first pitch, and they've got incredible last-minute deals, clear seat views, and a lowest price guarantee that takes the worry out of buying. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Today's show is also brought to you by PrizePicks, the daily fantasy platform that lets you turn your football prediction into real rewards. Preseason is already heating up and college football isn't far behind. It's the perfect time to lock in your season-long more or less picks for the 2025 football season, all before week 1 kicks off. Whether you've got your eye on the big-name quarterbacks or breakout running backs, PrizePicks makes it easy to get in the game. I was feeling a little antsy talking about PrizePicks yesterday and today, so I went in there, put a lineup for tomorrow. More than 74.5 passing yards for Tyson Bagent, more than 24.5 rushing yards for Kamanagana. I think that's how you say it. I'm pretty sure I just butchered it. And more than 17.5 receiving yards for Jerry Rice's kid, Brendan Rice. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 in lineups after your first $5 play. PrizePicks, run your game. All right, Colin Ray, the forgotten man, I would say, in this game. Again, the Cubs scored 9 runs, all very positive. You go 0 for 9 with runners in scoring position yesterday, 5 for 13 today. But Colin Ray, 6 innings pitched, 3 hits, 2 walks, 6 strikeouts. Colin Ray has been one of those guys that's been a little bit of a roller coaster this year, some ups, some downs, and really it's been a lot more up, I think, than we realize. I think his bad performances really stand out in a large way because they're typically blow-up performances. But another really good one for him in this game. Look, and we'll see what happens. I said yesterday during the show, this was one of the most probably important outings of Colin Ray's season because while I agree with Mark here in the chat that Colin is better than Tyon, totally agree. Jameson Tyon is coming back, and so is Javier Assad. So you have both those guys on their way up to rejoin the Cubs at some point in the next 2 weeks. You would expect to see both of them on the Cubs roster. And what Craig Counsell's decision is going to be, I think, is really interesting. You know, the way that they're limiting Cade Horton, the way that they talked about on the broadcast about potentially limiting, or adding days in between for Matthew Boyd. Really interested to see what the decision is from the front office and how they decide to use these guys in the rotation. My gut tells me now that we're going to see really just a piggyback situation of some kind with Cade Horton, with maybe Javier Assad. I don't know who starts and who comes in next, but I feel like that's going to be the plan for the Cubs. That's just a guess right now, but who knows what they'll do. It's still not perfect. You obviously still could have added more at the deadline, but you think about this team and again, what they've done since the All-Star break. The starting pitching has been excellent. It's been the one part of this team that since the deadline has really kept the Cubs in contention of winning these games. A lot of them they're not winning, and it's the bullpen or the lineup that's letting them down. Multiple 3-hit games, things like that. Let's see. I saw this one here. Cliff says, stop disrespecting J-Mo Joe. That man literally carried us for the first 2 months. Yeah, look, it's not disrespect. I just think that I like Colin Ray's stuff better. I think Jameson Tyon honestly, I think they're pretty even. I don't think there's a huge advantage for one or the other. I prefer Colin Ray of the two guys. So things that I think from this game watching tonight that you should feel optimistic about, that maybe we're seeing signs of a corner being turned. That's what I'm looking for. A corner being turned for the Cubs. Again, Kyle Tucker, still not the major production for him, but we're seeing much harder hit contact. Michael Busch is up there. Carson Kelly was scuffling a little bit. I feel like got lost a little bit as well with the other guys that were mightily struggling earlier throughout this stretch. He's another one that's a very positive sign. And then the other one too that hasn't got mentioned yet, besides with Matt Shaw bringing him in, Dansby Swanson, 3-hit day, 3 for 4 with a strikeout in this one. Yes, he has struggled with runners in scoring position, but you need him to also just be a guy that's getting on base more consistently. And his season has obviously been the most extreme of a roller coaster, but that's another positive one. Robert says here in the chat, Matt Shaw should be playing every day. Yes, I don't think there's any question about that. I didn't hear Craig Counsell's explanation to why he went with Castro over Shaw in yesterday's lineup. I don't know if it was a matchup thing that they saw, but Matt Shaw has been excellent. His 6th home run since the All-Star break. He has started to look like everything that was promised. I know Cubs fans don't really want to talk about this guy right now, and honestly, he's been one of the worst players in baseball over the last 2 months, and they're ignoring that. But the Cubs chose to trade Cam Smith instead of Matt Shaw. This is why. I think this is what you're expecting to see from Matt Shaw on a daily basis. Is his hitting has been much improved. His defense has obviously been excellent. So really, I think that's been the only real positive coming out of the All-Star break for the Cubs has been the performance of Matt Shaw. But again, I totally agree with, I think it was Robert in the chat, that Matt Shaw should be playing every single day. He is your third baseman. When you think about, to steal the words that are annoying all of us so much, when you think about the 2032 Cubs, Matt Shaw factors into that team in a big way. I think Castro was a really good acquisition move to just have, depth on your roster. But Matt Shaw has done, I think he's rightfully earned that spot. And I don't think it's why the Cubs didn't trade for Eugenio Suarez or anything like that at the deadline. But he has, constantly performed to a level that should get Cubs fans very, very excited, and shouldn't be lost in the frustrations that they've seen. The only one that's really left here that hasn't had the bright spots is definitely PCA. That's one where He's not getting on base at all because he doesn't have the patience where, like, at least Kyle Tucker's walking a lot for the most part. But we're not seeing, that from PCA, obviously. Again, we're seeing the frustration. Yes, there's the elite defense. He's the next one that you are hoping to see a pulse from. You've seen it from the other guys. You started to see a pulse. But PCA is kind of the next one on the list of, can you start to show some time of turning it around, like the other guys have given slight glimpses of right now. Yeah, Robert says PCA is just not driving the ball. Yes. And just the frustration. Cliff says PCA walk, LOL. He can't stop swinging. Yeah, that's not something I'm sure we're ever going to see from PCA. I think this is a great point by Evan. PCA reminds him of Javier Baez. Yes, there is a lot of similarity between Javier Baez and PCA. And I don't know if we get blinded by the fact that they were traded for each other to why it adds to that. But you think about like the peak Javi stuff that we were seeing in like 2016 and how electric he could be. But then there'd be times where it'd be a struggle at the plate for him. And all of a sudden he would get hot again. So PCA's just got to kind of get that confidence back and get more comfortable back in the plate. I think it's pretty clear that the book has been written on him this season, and the pitching staffs of other teams have really figured out a way to attack him that is frustrating him. And he and the hitting coaches on this team, they just got to find a counter. So again, hopefully it's a sign of things to come. We'll wait and see if it actually is, but it starts with tomorrow and just seeing the Cubs get a win on Sunday Night Baseball against the St. Louis Cardinals. Quick reminder here as well, over on the Locked On Bears YouTube channel, we'll be going live after every single Bears game as well this season. It'll be me and other people. We'll be going for an hour after each game, and that does start with the first preseason game tomorrow. So come hang out with us over on the Locked On Bears YouTube channel tomorrow as well when that game wraps up. So that will do it for us today. We'll talk to you guys either there tomorrow or here as well tomorrow night after the game. So double dose of Joe if you want me tomorrow. Talk to you guys tomorrow. Have a good one. Happy Saturday. Peace.